Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Racing Show here at RacePlazaMedia. This weekend, the F1 Grand Prix is happening in Shanghai, China. So what better time to take a look at Zhou Guanyu, the first one, the very first mainland Chinese driver, Shanghai native, who has ever competed in a F1 Grand Prix. There's lots to know about him, so without much further ado, let's just dive right into it. Before we even get started with where he comes from, where his racing career started, I wanted to start out by pointing out that Zhou is actually his last name. Guanyu is his first name, and Zhou is his family name. The F1 honors the Chinese tradition of putting the family name first and then the individual's personal name. So now let's dive into it. Zhou does not come from a family, or should I say Guanyu doesn't come from a family that is involved or was involved into motorsports. He just had a passion as a young child. He loved cars immediately. Every birthday he asked for car models. And while growing up in Shanghai, he attended all and any race that happened in Shanghai, including the inaugural F1 race in 2004, where he cheered on his idol, Fernando Alonso, which it's kind of beautiful to know now that he, one, is now competing alongside him. And even before competing and being on the F1 grid, while he was in F2, he did test drive during an FP1 session. He drove Fernando Alonso's car. What a beautiful kind of journey that he has gone on, from being a 5-year-old in 2004 cheering on Fernando Alonso at the Shanghai Grand Prix to then driving in his car during an F1 practice session as an F2 driver to now competing against Fernando Alonso. It also just emphasizes the incredible career Fernando Alonso has had, but we'll talk about that more in another video. This one is all about Zhou Guanyu. So what did he do? He started with karting, of course. However, motorsport in China is quite expensive, as well as it's not very competitive. There's not a lot, or especially back then when he was younger, there was not a lot of high quality competition. I mean, he immediately won every competition that he was participating in. So in 2010, he competed for the first time in Europe. And then 2 years later, he decided to move with his mom to Sheffield, England. So that's in northern England, in Yorkshire. He moved there with his mom to have more access to karting and motorsport in general, to improve his passion and then now career, of course, but then also, of course, for education. He did say he has a lot of great memories of his time in Yorkshire with his mom, because also, especially compared to Shanghai and London, the lifestyle there is a little bit less hurried. So he had a little bit more time and also attention from the teachers to really focus on his schooling, to improve his language skills, because of course there was quite a big of a language and cultural difference coming from China to England. And of course, he had a lot of time to focus on his racing in karting at the time. And he was immediately quite successful. Well, in the first year, it took some adjusting, because he went from winning every single race in China to now having much higher competition. So the first year, he had to get used to not always being on the podium, but rather being in the top 10. And then, however, in 2013, he did win the British and the European championships in karting, which also showed his growth in the sport. His knowledge expanded, but also brought some attention to him as a race car driver. During his early years, he did indeed compete also against Lando Norris, who we're all very familiar with. And one of the other things he pointed out, that even during his karting career, when he was actually winning and being on the podiums, on the awards that he was getting, or the trophies, previous winners' names were etched on it, so he could see world champion Lewis Hamilton's name, or now Sir Lewis Hamilton's name, etched on the trophy as well, to see the footsteps he was essentially following. After his karting days, of course, he moved on to the junior formula category, starting with F4, which in 2015 F4 Italia, he ended up being second in the overall championship, and throughout his entire junior formula career, so F4, F3, and F2, he had won several races and earned many, many more podiums. Due to his success, he was indeed signed at first by the Ferrari Academy in 2014, prior to his second place finish in the F4 Italian Championship, and then in 2009, he ended up being signed by the Renault/Alpine Driver Academy. He signed with Renault right before entering F2. His first couple of races went well, and then his second half of the season dipped a little bit. He ended up staying 3 seasons in F2, with the third season being his best one overall, where he also competed for the overall championship. He ended coming in second in 2021, just behind the most recent rookie of F1, Oscar Piastri. After that, he was offered the rookie seat on the team of Alfa Romeo alongside ex-Mercedes driver Valtteri Bottas. Zhou did also say that he cried when he received a call from his manager that he was offered a seat for Alfa Romeo, just because of the well-known fact that so few F2 drivers, very successful F2 drivers even, don't ever have the opportunity to drive an F1 car. I think this statistic is around only 5% of F2 drivers ever get to drive an F1 car or compete in an F1 car, since there's only 20 seats, of course, available in F1. And in 2022, there was only 1 rookie seat available that ended up going to Zhou Guanyu. I don't know if you followed the 2022 season, but his first race in Bahrain, he did end up scoring 1 point as he came in 10th place, which is, of course, an amazing debut for a rookie. However, just a couple races later in Silverstone, I'm sure many have seen it, even if they didn't watch the race. He had this incredible, scary crash in the first lap where he crashed with George Russell, and he ended up turning over, sliding across the gravel, ended up into the fence and behind the tires. Luckily, he came out almost unscathed. And also, which I just found out during the research, his whole family was there. Since he spent a big chunk of his growing up in England, Silverstone is considered a home race for him as well. So his family decided to attend the Silverstone race. So unfortunately, they had to watch this incredibly scary accident. However, he does say that the halo truly saved his life. He did attend the next race in Austria and said his goal for the Austria race was, of course, to make it through lap 1 unscathed, which he did. However, unfortunately, after that, the season didn't go quite the way he wanted to. There was a lot of reliability issues with the car, and he also said that he still tends to make mistakes that don't need to happen. He did learn a lot from Valtteri Bottas over the years. They're now the 3rd year together on the team, and he said especially in the first year, Valtteri taught him a lot of things, but however, still in 2024, they work closely together. Of course, they're a little bit more competitive now since Zhou has more experience, and they're both hoping for a contract extension or some kind of placement on the F1 grid for next year, since both of their contracts are up for negotiations, as many others on the grid, as you probably already know. Overall, Zhou says the first year, his rookie year in 2022, was probably overall the best season he's had outside of the reliability issues. Of course, if you've been following F1, he has had a lot of ups and downs, which he's a little bit frustrated with, but of course he's doing his best. He's trying to prove to his team, to his engineer, that he's learning, that he's improving. And his engineer currently at stake also said that he's very happy with the pace that Zhou has. He just needs to work on making less mistakes. Let's talk a little bit more about the Chinese Grand Prix that's happening this weekend and the big deal it is. So, of course, as mentioned in the intro of this video, Zhou Guanyu is the very first Chinese driver, Shanghai native, to compete in an F1 race. He has competed now in, I believe, a total of 48 races, which is absolutely incredible. The only other person to ever drive in an F1 car in an F1 free practice session is Ma Qinghua in 2012. However, in 2012 was only the first time that Ma participated in a free practice session. He participated in several over the years of 2012 and 2013. However, he never started in a Grand Prix or became an official F1 driver. Zhou, however, on the other hand, of course, now is an F1 driver. However, in 2019, while he was still an F2 driver, he had the opportunity to drive an F1 car in a demonstration lap or several demonstration laps around the Shanghai circuit during the Shanghai Grand Prix weekend of F1 back then in 2019. And he did say that, surprising to him, a lot of people cheered for him even back then when he took off his helmet, when they realized that it was indeed a Chinese driver driving the car. And ever since then, motorsport enthusiasm and motorsport in general has increased or grown in China. And that is also one of the things he is planning on working on even after his career in F1, is to grow motorsport in China and also to provide more opportunities to future Chinese drivers. He does say that still at this moment, the only path for a Chinese driver would be the same path that he has taken, moving to Europe and continuing or building a career from there, which of course requires lots of money, even more money, I would assume, than a native European child. However, currently at this moment, there's no Chinese drivers in any of the junior categories for Formula. So it will take many, many more years before we have a follow-up to Zhou Guanyu, somebody who follows in his footsteps in F1. Also, what's happening this weekend, which is very exciting, is that there's a documentary coming out about Zhou Guanyu called The First One. It's a documentary following his life, his journey in motorsport. Apparently, he's had a film crew following him ever since the age of 10 years old up until now. He wants to share footage, share his daily life as a driver so people have a better understanding of how things work and a little bit more of a path to follow for their own future careers. The documentary will be released all across China in movie theaters starting April 19th, so this very weekend, and hopefully it will be available to us outside of China sooner than later. Apparently there will be subtitles available, so English speakers will be able to watch the film as well. And one more thing, just to point out the huge impact Zhou Guanyu has had on Chinese motorsport and what an incredible fan base he has in China, is that he now has his very own grandstand at the Shanghai Grand Prix, and apparently it had sold out within minutes. I do hope that he has a very good race. If he could even score just one single point this weekend, it would be beautiful. Now, before we end this video, I have a couple more quick fun facts about Zhou Guanyu that I wanted to share with you guys. First off, his car or driver number is 24 after his idol, not Fernando Alonso this time, however, Kobe Bryant, who used to wear the number 24 on his jersey. That's why Zhou Guanyu decided to have the number 24 on his car. Another thing that is, I think, already a little bit more well-known, but which I very much appreciate about Zhou Guanyu, is also his creativity. He actually designs all of his helmet designs himself. According to an interview that I've seen, he actually draws the designs or his ideas for the designs on the plane. He then shares it with a helmet designer for them to make it onto his helmet. So he very much puts a lot of effort into his helmet design and a lot of thought into them as well. Not only does he put thought into his helmet designs, but also fashion. Fashion has been very huge for Zhou Guanyu. He is definitely one of the people that I always pay attention to when the first time they walk onto the paddock. Of course, Lewis Hamilton is my big favorite in terms of fashion, but Zhou Guanyu does have some great outfits, and he does say he doesn't have anybody that picks the outfits for him. He does it himself. And he also keeps in mind that those outfits might inspire some of his fans to wear as well. So he wants them to be, I guess, more or less accessible for his fans to be able to copy those looks and wear them themselves as well, which I think is very thoughtful. Another thing that I thought was very interesting, another thoughtful thing, is that he was an ambassador to the Special Olympics in Berlin last year, and he gave several athletes the opportunity to come to the F1 Grand Prix in Silverstone, which is, I mean, an incredible thing to do. All right, folks, I think this is all I have for you guys about Zhou Guanyu, the first ever Chinese Shanghai-born F1 Grand Prix driver. As mentioned, we hope he has a very successful race this weekend. I hope that all the pit stops run very smooth this weekend so they don't impede with his race. And from what I've been reading and all the interviews I've been watching about him, he truly seems like a really nice guy. He doesn't get a lot of attention typically because he's not, of course, up there in the mix. He seems maybe a little bit more quiet, but he seems just very passionate. He's very articulate. And he seems like overall a good guy. So I wish him all the best this weekend and also in the future. I'm curious to see if he will have a seat next season in 2025. Do let me know in the comments below. Do you think he will remain on the F1 grid in the future? Or will we maybe see him in a different type of motorsport? But with that, I will leave you guys for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys tomorrow at the Daily Racing Show. Bye-bye.